welcome to my review and tutorial for the Vox MiniGo50. My name is Dallas. Just got this amp, and it's a great little practice tool and even performance amp. This will be a mostly talking video with some playing examples mixed in here while I go through the amp, its functions, you know, some different things you can do with it, and then you know, at the end I'll just give you my overall opinion, which I'll hint at now is that this is one of the best bang for the buck, I'm going to call it, tools that I've bought in recent years. It does a lot. It checks off a lot of boxes, and as we get through this, I'll kind of explain those boxes and what I was looking for when I bought this amp. Okay, enough of that. Let's get into it. So to start with, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There's 10 different amp simulations, and the last one being a line out. I believe that is for another instrument. I don't think it's the mic, because there's a mic in input here. So, but it doesn't seem to, with the line out. No, there is still sound coming. I am still getting signal in line. So that one seems to, I don't know what that function is. I'm sure it's in the PDF that you can download. We're not going to get that deep. This is just going to be an overall review here. So the first amp type, now some of these are going to be high gain. I'm not really going to go through all of them here. It starts out with a Fender Deluxe 22 watt Deluxe Reverb. I'm going to keep the settings the same here. I have the gain at about noon, volume at what would be the equivalent of about 3 at 9 o'clock there. I have the treble and bass at noon as well. So just a quick playing example here. So a good clean tone there. So the next one up is going to be a Dumble clean. So that's going to be pretty similar. The next one up is going to be your Dumble but overdriven. Next one's going to be a Vox AC30. And the next one's your Vox AC30 with a top boost. Probably my favorite overdriven. I like that, both that one and the Dumble overdriven. After that, it starts getting into more high gain stuff that I'm not even going to bother going through. So that's like your Marshall Plexi, more high gain Marshall, SLOD, I don't know what that is. Double Rec, I'm sure that's a Mesa. Well, that one sounds kind of cool. Then your last one down here is a vocoder. Highly doubt I'll ever use it, but it's on there. So let's just go back down to the clean Dumble. I'm just going to use that for the remainder of the demo here. Just know that the volume and gain interact with each other, similar how it would on a tube amp almost, or I mean I guess any other amp, but it has a very tube-like response to it in my opinion. The gain and the volume work together on all of these, clean or dirty, but obviously the clean ones give you a whole lot of headroom. Let me just add in too that this amp in general is 50 watts and has a ton of headroom. I'm not going to push it in this room because this room's too small and it doesn't warrant it, and you won't really capture the volume over this kind of recording anyway. But long story short, you could easily get over a drummer with this. So this fits all applications of everywhere from a practice amp all the way up to a gigging amp if you needed it. I mean, I don't know if I'd necessarily want to gig with it, but it certainly could be used for that. It also underneath the volume here, and you know, I don't know how well you can see the controls here, but underneath the volume there is the watt. You can change the wattage from the full 50 to 10 to 1. So you got full 50, 10, 1 watt. So if you really wanted to like push it, like I said, it interacts like tubes. So if you really want to push it, you could just take the wattage down there. I've been leaving it at 50 because I'm more of a clean player, and you know, I just kind of keep the volume down, but you know, however you want to use it. So next, under the input here, you have your mic in this trim and the send, which have to do with that input. So you're not really going to use that unless you're also using this to sing through or mic another instrument. Now next to it, you have your effects. So it has delay and reverb on one dial down here, and then your modulation effects up here. So first, going through the delays, the way that the knobs work is the further you go on the setting here, the more it affects the, on the delay, I think it's the mix. It is the mix. Yeah, and might I say that the mix on this is absolutely awful. This is, I think, maybe the one thing about this amp that I really don't like is the delays. So that's your analog and your digital. I mean, the trails are so quiet even when you have it, the mix maxed out. And then two, because it's on the same dial as reverb, there's no reverb in it, so it just feels really dry and not good. So next you have your spring and your hall, which to me don't sound any different. And it's the mix, definitely, as far as what the dial controls here. Might I add that for each of these, on the delay and the modulation, the dial only affects one parameter, right? So we'll get into on the modulation, it's mostly speed, and on the delay reverb, it's mostly depth. On the reverb, I think it could be better. So it sounds kind of thick now with me just playing one little clip, but if you play it for 5 minutes, it starts to sound just barely present. It's not, the reverb and delay on this aren't magnificent. I'd say that's my biggest complaint on this amp. Next you have your modulation, which are much better. The chorus, so here you can hear it. So with that, the knob affects depth. On your phaser, it's speed. On the tremolo, it's also going to be speed. And then you have an octave effect. And as the dial actually affects it, the synth on it. So that's kind of cool, and we'll get into that. It has a really cool effect when you get into the looper function here. So I'll show you how I use that. So let's leave that off for now. But that modulation is much cooler than the reverb delay one underneath it, if you ask me. I do leave the reverb on, so you'll be hearing it on with spring throughout the rest of this, and you know, it does serve its purpose of like an always on, but it's not the best. Next we get into the looping section of the amp, which not only can you loop with this amp, but you can also run an aux cable here with your phone, so you can play backing tracks through it too. So you know, everything from practice to performance you can do with this amp. The drum on it, the drum machine on it sounds pretty decent. You have control of the volume. It's got the different styles and variation, 3 variations on each. So this is Latin, for instance, which I don't think sounds very Latin, but that's just me. me. Like the R&B one's kind of cool. This one, the funk one's kind of cool. The variation on that one just adds like a little bit faster hi-hat hits in there, like double time almost. Not double time, but the accents there. And then like the same thing there, you do the other variation, just kind of changes the accents. So kind of cool. You know, you could obviously you keep this on and then start looping. So you hit the looper, which is next to it. You hit the button and it'll start recording when you start playing. Now there's a foot switch to make to go with this, but I didn't buy it yet. You have to come separately. So once you start playing, it'll just start recording, and then you gotta quickly do. Now it'll quantize it. So it'll line it up if you kind of miss the hit there with your hand, as you can hear there. Now what's cool is it keeps that tone on here, and I'm not going to bother re-recording that, even though I did a horrible job on that loop. I'm just trying to show you the amp here. But now you can change your tone. Like let's say I want to go to a more overdriven, you know, so I can change it. Also too, here's where I was saying you can use the effects too, because now if you want to change your tone, let's say you want to just throw on like some phased out shit, but also let's say you want to record like a bass line. Here's where you can go to that octave, and then you just record that over it. Oh. Line in there. I could have got more synthy on it. And then let's say we want to go, let's do like a tremmy, like fuzzy thing, right? You can take out your last loop by holding that down. So that took out the snow. I think that should delete the last one. There it is. Nope, it's not deleting it. Double tap it and you can then hold the whole thing down to delete the loop. You can just start and stop the drums. So that's how the looper function works here. Let me go back to my cleaner tone. Other than that, that's pretty much the function of this amp. Oh, here's playing a track through the aux cable on my phone. You have to be real careful that you don't plug it in while your phone is maxed out, because you control the volume on your phone. That was a mistake I made at first, and you get 50 watts of backing track blown right at your ear, so that's no fun for anybody. But as you can hear, this is pretty cool. So let me turn it up a little bit. sit here and jam. That'll be for a different video, because that actually is a super dope backing track. Anyway, no more side notes there. Well, it's I mean, I think that about wraps up most of what I'll be using this amp for. Then the other beautiful part of this amp is here. I have it plugged into its AC adapter, but I don't know if you can see back here. There's also an input right next to it here for a battery, which I have a mobile battery, so it is a battery powered amp as well. And then next to it is the controller for the foot switch, so you have more control over the looper. So really cool little amp, and I just want to give my overall review on it and just say that this amp checks a whole lot of boxes for me personally. I needed something that I could play at more bedroom volume other than my big tube amps, and I didn't want to spend hundreds of dollars on a nice low wattage tube amp at this moment. I wanted something that could also get louder and still have some headroom, which right there, even just that kind of rules out a low wattage tube amps, because you're going to crank that and you're going to have beautiful overdrive tones, but it's not going to have much headroom if you get like a Champ or something. So I thought I'd go with something like this that does have the capability to also have more headroom, and then as well cut some wattage and use it as a practice amp, or just run it at full wattage and run it clean at lower volumes. It not being a tube amp, it reacts sort of like a tube amp, but I mean, you can run it at lower volumes and it's still gonna have pretty similar tone, unlike an actual tube amp. So the other things is like having the onboard looping drum function, having the aux input for backing tracks, and then being battery powered, having all those things, so completely mobile, can take it anywhere you want to go. So between all of those factors, I found that this was a great bang for the buck. I believe it was $299 brand new retail, or either that or $349, and I talked him down to $299, or it was B stock, or it was open box. I'm not sure what it was, but around $300 though retail. I haven't seen a lot of them used. I can see why. If you're going to bother buying this, it's probably what you're looking for, and there's really no reason to resell it unless you just don't have the need for a practice amp or a mobile amp. I think a mobile amp is something, especially if you're a teacher or someone who needs to take a small rig with you places. I think it's a great alternative. The effects in it, I give the effects a B. The modulation effects a B. I give the reverb and the delay a D. Probably a D minus. The reverb maybe a D plus, C minus, because it's usable. The delay, let's just be frank, I give the delay an F.